They are everywhere, yet invisible. In the recent German election, nearly 1 in 5 young people voted for the far-right AfD party. But finding one of them willing to talk about their decision, that's another story. Again and again, the answer was no. No talking to the media and definitely not in front of the camera. But then, we met Max.
Warum wählst du die AfD?
After Max had agreed to speak with us, we even went to his village in Western Germany, and you'll see a lot of the footage in this report. But after our first day of filming, Max sent us this message.
Hello, Linda. I've slept on it for a night. I know this is going to come really suddenly, and I'm sorry, but I no longer feel comfortable doing this.
So we were left with a load of video material and the question that we wanted to answer. Why did young people vote so heavily for the far right? And why does no one want to talk about it publicly? That's why we decided to go ahead with this film, even if that means making sure Max stays completely anonymous. Max's real name is not Max. The 2025 snap election is Max's first national vote. We're meeting him in the city of Saarbrücken, in the state of Saarland. It's not where Max lives. From the outset, his parents didn't want us to film in their house, and Max is weary of neighbors being nosy.
Wie hat es bei dir angefangen, dass du dachtest, ich will die AfD wählen?
Als junger Mensch in der Politik in Deutschland.
To be honest, as a young person, I felt neglected by politicians in Germany. For me, the pandemic was basically having a big chunk of my youth stolen. I was unable to do the things during COVID that other people could do at my age. I remember one time I was out with some friends during the COVID pandemic. There was a curfew on. There were 5 of us outdoors, and the police found us. Me and my 4 friends ended up being fined. 150 euros each, I think. I felt I'd been treated unfairly. I have the right to move around freely outside. As I see it, our politicians have been a failure in recent months, and I'm just disappointed with the old parties. I think the AfD deserves a chance.
Let's take a step back and look at the party we're talking about in this film. Germany's far-right Alternative für Deutschland, or AfD, has been on the rise, fast. Just a little over a decade ago, it was a fringe party. Now, it's at record highs with the second strongest performance in the federal election and one of the top choices for young people in Germany. The AfD presents itself as a rebellious alternative, making effective use of social media platforms like TikTok to push its anti-immigration, anti-LGBTQ, and anti-government agenda in ways that resonate with younger audiences. The party advocates for Germany's exit from the EU, denies man-made climate change, and promotes nuclear energy alongside a resumption of Russian gas imports. Despite being officially classified as a suspected far-right extremist group with intelligence services warning of an increasing radicalization, the AfD continues to gain traction. It calls for mass deportations, with some leaders questioning the validity of German passports held by certain individuals, an idea that would contravene the constitution. The AfD itself has repeatedly denied harboring a radical agenda. Max can't talk about his political views with everyone. He shares his political beliefs with his family and some of his friends, but that's it.
People don't like saying they vote for the AfD because you just get pigeonholed as a Nazi.
Und das
Wolltest du eigentlich darüber reden?
ich selber wollte darüber.
I myself did want to talk about it because I wanted to explain that there are people who vote AfD but might not 100% agree with the party and who aren't Nazis.
Vielleicht trotzdem nicht zu 100% damit übereinstimmen.
I wanted to show what someone who votes AfD looks like.
So das reale Bild abbilden oder abdecken von jemandem.
A lot of my friends are foreigners.
Aber auch viele ausländische
There's one
Freunde,
good friend of mine who graduated from high school with me and is now at college. He's a refugee from Syria. He came over on a rubber dinghy and then came to Germany.
Syrer, das mit dem Gummiboot.
But that's a perfect example of integration. His entire family too. And that's what we need here in
Und auch
Germany.
seine ganze Familie. Sowas brauchen wir hier in Deutschland.
It's perfectly okay to say I'm against the far right, like I am too.
Extremismus.
But saying that everyone who is in the AfD or votes for the AfD is a Nazi is just stupid and not fair. I'm not a Nazi. Neither are a lot of other people.
Unter der Gürtellinie. Ich bin kein Nazi und das sind viele andere auch nicht.
The term Nazi is taken extremely seriously in Germany. But even though the AfD vehemently denies systematically following Nazi ideology and language, there's evidence showing links between AfD politicians and the vocabulary or doctrine of Nazis. The party itself has confirmed many individual cases. The most prominent example is regional politician Björn Höcke. A court ruled that he can be called a fascist. In 2024, he was convicted twice for using banned Nazi slogans.
I think the accusations do have substance, and that Björn Höcke needs to be viewed with a very critical eye.
Sehr kritisch zu sehen ist. Ich finde nicht, dass
I don't think the AfD is extremist.
die hat mit Sicherheit
It will definitely have some members who are extremists, but I don't think what they say in Parliament is extremist.
Vertreten finde ich nicht extrem.
While we were filming with Max in Saarbrücken, there's a demonstration against the far right. We stay and watch for a while together with Max. The speakers on stage chant "Fuck AfD," tell people to show AfD voters the middle finger, and warn their audience about the party's anti-migration policy.
Ich würde mir wünschen, dass man
I'd like to see them stop being so nasty and saying stuff like "fuck you" to the AfD.
der AfD den Mittelfinger und
They should try to find common solutions instead of saying, okay, you're on that side and we're on this one.
sagt, okay, ihr steht auf der Seite, wir stehen auf
Instead,
der Seite.
just talking to each other and actively working together as a society.
Als Gesellschaft agiert.
Max is standing to one side. He later told us it was this moment, among others, that showed him that voting for the AfD means facing a harsh backlash, and that he wouldn't want his face to be visible in this film anymore. The protest in Saarbrücken isn't a one-off. The mood in Germany is heated, and while the AfD is rising in the polls, thousands of people are hitting the streets in many cities to protest against the far right. One of the big issues in the election is migration, which has not just become a classic far-right theme in the campaign. The debate has been fueled and radicalized by several deadly attacks that have left Germany emotionally shaken.
Wenn man sowas hört,
Hearing that kind of thing gets to
trifft
you.
das ein. Ich meine, das hätte jeder.
I mean, it could have happened to anyone.
Jemand aus meiner Familie sein
It could have been my own family who were attacked. And that makes you think.
nachdenklich.
It gets to you.
Und da hat
Of course,
natürlich einfach
you get scared.
Angst. Ich finde, dass da
I think our politicians have failed because it should never have
gar
happened.
nicht hätte passieren dürfen. Und das
And it's always been people with a migration background.
mit Migrationshintergrund.
Of course, I'm not saying that all immigrants do it, but you do notice how it tends more to be young men who are immigrants.
Vermehrt junge Männer sind, die Migranten sind. Also
So when it comes to immigration, what I really want to see is us minimizing the red tape and people being deported more swiftly.
einfach konsequenter abgeschoben wird, wenn ein Straftäter
Someone who's committed several criminal offences here, or who is a fugitive war criminal, should be expelled from the country without delay and all this bureaucracy.
einfach ohne diesen ganzen Papierkram einfach
There's no place for this here in Germany, or
Ich
anywhere.
finde, sowas hat bei uns keinen Platz in Deutschland und auch sonst nirgends.
Regardless of where you are in Germany,
Egal wo man in
who you are and where you're from, you should be safe.
sollte man nicht
And you shouldn't have to be afraid of someone attacking you with a knife or running you over with a
Vielleicht
car.
jemand mit einem Messer oder also auf einen losgeht oder mich mit dem Auto umfährt.
Es ist tatsächlich so, dass die Kriminalitätsstatistik in Deutschland in den letzten 20, 30 Jahren zurückgegangen ist. Also es gab einen kleinen Anstieg von 2022 auf 2023, aber insgesamt, wenn man die letzten 20 oder 30 Jahre betrachtet, ist Deutschland so sicher wie noch nie. Fühlt sich das für dich so an?
Absolut gar nicht.
Not at all.
Fühlt sich absolut nicht so
It
an.
absolutely doesn't feel as if Germany is safer than ever
Aber
before.
mir geht's vor allem auch Wirtschaft.
But I'm primarily concerned about economic issues, and above all, that there's a lot of money, including German taxpayers' money, simply being sent abroad,
Steuergelder der Deutschen einfach
basically taken out of our own country.
verteilt werden aus dem eigenen Land quasi und
There's not enough being done for Germany, while we do a lot more for everyone else.
und viel mehr für alle anderen.
There are a lot of reasons. Look at our schools and kindergartens and our hospitals.
Schulen, unsere Krankenhäuser,
There are staff shortages everywhere.
Kindergärten, also überall.
And second, a lot of those schools and hospitals are in need of renovation.
Sehr, sehr viele Schulen, Kindergärten, Krankenhäuser renovierungsbedürftig.
Und kennst du Ideen von der AfD, wie sie das finanzieren wollen?
I don't know about any concrete ideas, but I think they definitely want to cut the funding that goes abroad. But in detail?
ins Ausland fließen. Aber jetzt konkret.
All other parties said they will not cooperate with the AfD. Since the end of World War II and the Holocaust, there's been a consensus amongst Germany's main political parties that the far and extreme right must never be allowed in government again. This so-called firewall has extended to include collaboration with far-right parties in any capacity.
Das macht Demokratie
That's
aus.
democracy.
Und ich finde,
Saying, okay, we don't want to have anything to do with the AfD or have them in a coalition is totally ignoring regular people, because there is a significant part of the population who do vote for the AfD. It just makes me angry that people aren't being listened to. They're not even allowed to finish speaking. They're just rejected out of hand without anyone listening to them or letting them have their say.
Our plan was to join Max as he cast his very first national elections vote and to talk to him about the results. But he canceled mid-shoot. He says he's afraid of being vilified after the release of this video. He doesn't want him or his family to be targeted just for voting for the AfD. And most importantly, he worries that in the future it could hurt his chances with employers if someone finds the video about him online. Max says that his vote for the AfD is partly out of protest against the other established parties, and his commitment to the far-right party does not seem set in stone.
I certainly would be prepared to vote for another party at the next national election. And I am aware that the AfD will probably not be the solution in the future or in the long term. But the thing is, I don't see any other political option right now. Even if there are people in that party who might not 100% represent my views, I agree even less with other parties.
20% of those under 24 in Germany, like Max, voted for the AfD. But the remaining 80% believe there are still more suitable options out there.